Yeah, one of the things about that about Secretary Locke's announcement is that it seems to have a very critical qualifier to it, and it seems that everything, all these changes are possible, can be made, raising limits, making other shifts, if the municipalities and the industry and the state can show a clear case of a need for emergency action. Our mayor in Gloucester, Carolyn Kirk, has already talked about pushing for that. But what can the state do specifically to sort of drive home that point? Because that seems to be a real.
Well, first of all, I think it was a breakthrough to get the secretary to agree that he had the power to act in an emergency. And so, because remember that's where it started. Right. My first pitch to them was you've already stated, Noah's already stated what the acceptable catch range is. And if that whole range is acceptable, then why not just move up to the upper end of that range and give them? That was the simplified version of the argument. And his pushback, or Noah's, was that you have to have a basis in science even to move within the range. So and his view was you couldn't use, I should say his counsel's view was that you couldn't use emergency powers to move within that range once they were set. That you had to wait for the next cycle. And we don't have time.
They were also obviously set out as they recognized from the limits on pollen. They were also flawed science to begin with, so I think they recognized that.
Well, and that was the start. But the problem with the choke species, at least as I understand it, is if you haven't come anywhere near your pollock limit because that's been raised, but if you're at your limit at one of the choke species, you can't fish for anything. So unless the whole range of species is raised for ground fish, you don't really get relief. So it took a lot of work with the lawyers, and Barney and John helped, Barney Frank and John Tierney helped a lot to get the Secretary's office to agree he had the power.
Right.
And now we have to make the case. So we've got to develop the economic and science. And basically, this is the cooperative science that we've been talking about for a long
Absolutely.
time. And I think we can get this done in weeks rather than months.
And you don't have any doubt that we will be able to make the case, and these promises will hold.
Well, I'm taking my counsel mainly from the fishermen. They're out on the water. This is the part of this that I've never really been able to understand why it isn't easier to reconcile the interests of the fishing industry with the interests of conservationists, because they both need and want a sustainable fishery. They both want. So and what happened with scallops was instructive, at least as the story has been told to me. Noah had science. It turns out it was flawed. The case was made to do cooperative science. SMAST was a part of it. Let the fishing folks participate in that and bring some experience to bear. The science was agreed on. They did the methodology. They showed the results, and the catch limits were changed. It's the same thing we're trying to do here with groundfish. So the fishermen have to be a part and will be a part of this, and I'm hopeful. But we've got our opening now,
right?
And now we have to make the